Hi students, in this module you are going to learn about the quality and the specifications of the raw materials and the finished products with respect to the food safety. Food is a composite of many ingredients and the food manufacturer must ensure that each and every component that goes into making the product finally is safe and free from the hazards. The hazards are principally of three kinds: biological, physical and chemical. So, all these three should not be present in the raw material. Therefore, the raw materials have to be inspected, checked by proper procedures. Finally, the finished products also have to be checked for the quality assurance that it is free from the contaminants. Here you will be confronted with another issue of process contaminants, that is, those contaminants that are coming into the finished products as a result of processing. These would not be present in the initial raw material but could occur in the final product. Therefore, a proper quality analysis with standard procedures as well as documentation of all the results are very important to ensure that the food will meet with the required standards and get the approval of the regulatory body. In this module, you will be learning about the quality and the specifications of the raw materials and the finished products. So, at the end of this discussion, you will know the quality parameters that should be employed to ensure the food safety from the raw material, and then the quality and the safety of the end products prepared from safe raw materials. The different components of the food processing include the raw materials, that is basically the ingredients, processing aids, packaging material, which are all the foundation of ensuring a quality product. As such, they must meet not only the acceptable and standard specifications but also the regulatory requirements such as safety and the legal requirements. The specifications must be such that they contribute to the functionality and the quality of the chosen process and the product. This PowerPoint shows you the raw material selection. Appropriate raw material must be selected based on the functionality. What is functionality? Functionality encompasses multiple requirements which are based on identified characters of the finished products. For example, the binders, the thickeners, the type of resin for plastic packaging, etc., the organoleptic characteristics, the flavor, color, aroma, texture, and product safety characteristics, that is lowering of the pH or the water activity, and the use of preservatives, colorants, etc., which are all used to give additional color or flavor or extend the shelf life. No raw material or the ingredient should be accepted by an establishment if it is known to contain the parasites, undesirable microorganisms or suspected pesticides presence, veterinary drugs or other toxic compounds, decomposed or extraneous substances which would not be reduced to an acceptable level as a result of normal sorting or processing. For example, physical hazards can be eliminated by proper sorting, and wherever appropriate, specifications for raw materials should be identified and they should be also implemented or applied. Raw materials or ingredients should, where appropriate, be inspected and sorted before processing, and wherever necessary, laboratory tests should be made to establish fitness for use. Only sound, suitable raw material ingredients must be used. What about the flexibility in sourcing and the costing? We are coming to a very important aspect in ensuring the quality of the raw material. That is the material or a commodity type can be purchased from multiple sources? In that case, we have to vet the quality of every source or every vendor and then compare the existing specifications from these multiple suppliers, allow comparison bidding, purchasing, etc. Now the question is, can the tolerances for characteristics to be expanded to be able to purchase from more than one source or wider range of possible existing material be accepted? Then the same should be reflected in the form of the company's policy. For example, granulation size for material that are going to be dissolved or melted, because if you're going to procure sugar or jaggery for making a sweet preparation, then the granular quality dissolution position of the commodity is very, very important. Similarly, can purchasing find a similar functionality material that may cost less or has fewer concern? Because the food manufacturer is ultimately doing business for profit, he would like to also have price competitiveness while ensuring a good quality. Therefore, the selection has to be based on important considerations. That is, if there is a raw material already in use with similar characters, can it be retained provided it's price-wise competitive? Depending on not whether it's an agricultural item, commodity item, or one with standard identity, general specifications can be used between multiple suppliers and it can be developed and maintained. For example, a granular size of a sugar from different vendors can be more or less comparative. The raw materials must fall under generally recognized as safe, or what is known in the food safety parlance as GRAS listing, as approved by the food regulatory body of the country. Ban on the use of genetically modified material, etc., will depend upon the legal status or the statute on the use of these items by the nations. Maximum levels for use both in the country of manufacture and the country of sale use depends on the food laws of both the countries. The raw material must also comply with the existing company or customer standards, namely, for example, the kosher meat, halal meat, organic products, gluten-free products, and so on and so forth. Specification requirement can be documented and it should be also recorded. Raw material storage. Refrigerated as well as a non-refrigerator, both should be stored in an appropriate manner. All the raw materials should be free from insect and rodent infestation. They should be free of contamination from other sources like birds, moisture, mold, etc. If bulk floor handling and storage is in use, then hose couplings inside and outside plant should be adequately protected from rodents because they could be destroyed. They should also be clean and then it should be in good condition. Dust collectors or ventilation bags at top of the bulk tank should be clean and insect free. If system contains inspection ports, they should be free from contamination. The microbial load of all the food item is very important aspect, particularly for high risk commodities like raw fruits, vegetables, liquid milk, meat, eggs, flour, cereal grain, etc., which should be all within the acceptable limits at receiving as well as during their storage of the materials in the raw form or in the inventory or godowns. Depending on the nature of the food, adequate facilities shall be available for storing the refrigerated or frozen foods, monitoring the food temperatures and controlling the ambient temperatures and humidity to ensure the microbiological safety and suitability of food. In case of grain storage, fumigation should be done at regular intervals to ensure absence of microbial and pest activity. But at the same time, fumigation methods should be in compliance to ensure the health status of those who are spraying as well as the consumers. The residue should not come into the final product. Now, this picture will show you how the fumigation is done in the field. Now, what are the high-risk raw foods which should be considered for sourcing and storage? Undoubtedly, the milk and the milk products, meat, fish, vegetables, fruits, etc., which carry lot of surface microorganisms perish very fast because they are present on their surfaces. There may be bruises and they penetrate into the further tissues, and also they are very rich medium for the microorganisms to grow. These items must be free from contamination at source and must be later stored at proper temperature and humidity and other conditions which are required to keep them free from contamination and then from becoming stale or perish faster. Precaution must be taken to follow the hygienic principles while processing and preparing the food using these high-risk commodities. Next is the inventory management. The stocks of raw material ingredients should be subject to effective stock rotation, and prevention of health hazard begins with control of incoming material. Suppose the incoming material is inadequately stored in improper environment, then there is every chance of that raw material getting contaminated during storage. Lastly, the principle of first in and first out, which is the basic principle in inventory management, must be followed. The manufacturer should control incoming ingredients through the following program. The first three options apply to the ingredients that may be critical factors where further processing is not likely to eliminate a hazard. The fourth option applies to the ingredients that are not likely to have any impact on the safety of the food. Periodic evaluation of incoming ingredient definitely is required. If not, it will impact the quality of the final product. The manufacturer should have a written specification for ingredients, once again a necessary criteria that could impact the quality of the final product. Purchasing specifications should also include provision for compliance with food law, otherwise your product will be confiscated or not allowed by the regulatory body. So the first three criteria are very important and have a direct impact on the safety of the food. The last one is the manufacturer should maintain a documented history of adherence to specifications for each supplier. That is, he must have the analytical results for the raw material as well as the end product. This is not likely to affect directly the food safety. However, there is a link indirectly with the systems that are in operation. A new history of adherence to specifications should be established when a firm changes suppliers, purchases ingredients from new supplier, or purchases a new ingredient from an existing vendor, or when spot checks do not agree with the certificate of analysis. Therefore, vendor certification is very important, and the following minimum requirement should be in place in any food business operator's center. The manufacturer should have a written specification for all ingredients. Manufacturer should have documentation to demonstrate adequate knowledge of the vendor's process. Example, the process flow charts on site evaluations, identification of critical control points, specifications, control limits, monitoring programs and frequencies, corrective actions taken, and the verification procedures. The manufacturer should also have data to demonstrate the capacity of the vendor's process to manufacture consistently within the specified limitations or the standards. Prior to implementation of a periodic monitoring program, the firm should analyze an appropriate number of consecutive lots to establish a historical database and confirm adherence to the specifications. The manufacturer should conduct periodic monitoring, verify the adherence to the specification. He should also conduct vendor audits to validate the status of the vendor certificate program. These are all basically the essence of a good manufacturing practice. Next is the Occupational Safety and the Health Administration, also known as OSHA. What are the OSHA's considerations? The safety of materials such as toxic, inflammable, or irritants need handling in a very safe manner, and the facility for the same must be available with the FBO. The food handlers must know of the safe handling procedures, particularly when the nature of the product is in question. For example, irritant like chili powder, one has to be very careful while handling. Product safety considerations. Historical information about the raw materials can be obtained from the literature. The company can also conduct a HACCP to assess potential biological, chemical, physical hazards affiliated with the raw material, as well as affiliated prerequisite programs and downstream prevention, elimination, reduction steps for identified hazards, which may be physical, chemical, and biological. It's not that only one contaminant can be there. Any two or three or all or one can be present, and they are not mutually exclusive for the presence. If there is a need for a new procedure, for example an allergen program and or validation over the existing procedures, it can be included or revised. In any food manufacturing units, facility and equipment capabilities are also very important. The plant must be technologically appropriate to handle the material. a machinery used should not change the characteristics of the ingredient. For example, where extrusion technology is used, the screw size, the torsion, etc. are all very important to get quality product and which conform to the standards which are specified by the FBO. It should be capable of handling the raw materials of specific particle size, designed by suitable and not introduce process contaminant. For example, from conveyor belts, lead can come as a contaminant. Iron particles can come into tea while the shearing or the breaking of the tea leaves are being done. Water, as I have mentioned earlier, is an important ingredient, and only potable water should be used for food preparation. Potable water is defined under standards of Codex as well as standards of Bureau of Indian Standards as well as by FSSAI. They have specifications with regard to presence of coliform bacteria, presence of pesticides, presence of trace elements and other contaminants. It should conform to the standard prescribed limits, and water should meet the requirements of all the regulations. It should be analyzed by the manufacturer or by the municipality or frequent intervals to confirm its potability, and the same information should be available for check by any regulatory body. Water from other sources other than the municipal supplies may be used, but they should also be conforming to the standards that are prescribed by the FSSAI regulations. Ice and the steam, again, when they are used as an ingredient in the production or when they come directly in contact with the food, it should be made from potable water and protected from contamination. But for other purposes where directly it's not coming in contact with the food, for example, water used in fire control, water used for washing or other purposes, cleaning, for example, the place need not be potable water but should be reasonably clean and hygienic. Water, if it is recirculated, should be treated, maintained in such a way that there is no risk to the safety or the suitability of the food results from its use. The treatment process should be effectively monitored. The recirculated water which has received no further treatment and water recovered from processing of food by evaporation or drying may be used, provided its use does not constitute a risk to the safety and suitability of food. There should be no cross connection between potable and non-potable water supply. All hoses, taps and other similar sources of contamination should be designed to prevent backflow or back siphonage. Water should be clean even while it is being stored. If it is necessary to store the water, storage facilities should be designed, constructed and maintained to prevent contamination. The volume, the temperature, the pressure of the potable water should be adequate for all the operational and the cleanup demands. Water, if it is treated with chemical, should not result in unacceptable chemical residues in the water. Chemical treatment should be monitored and controlled to deliver the desired concentration and to prevent contamination. Recirculated water should have its own separate distribution system which is clearly identified and again should not cross the path of the supply of clean water pipes and other gadgets that may be involved in the clean water or potable water distribution for direct food use. This picture shows you the packages of packed foods with the labels. You can see here that packaging materials are made up of different chemicals. It could be polyethylene or polypropylene or glass. Packaging design and materials should provide adequate protection for the products to maintain the prevent from the contamination, prevent the damage and maintain appropriate temperature and other clean environment, as well as it should accommodate the proper labeling. Packaging material or the gases which must be used, they should be non-toxic. They themselves should not be a cause for creating unsafe food or changes in the food that is being stored. For example, a milk stored in a Tetra Pak should be safe and also it should be able to give the information to the consumer. In this packaged food, you could see the labeling, and the labeling is as per the guidelines under the Labeling Act of FSSAI 2006. Wherever appropriate, the manufacturer should control the incoming packaging material also from the supplier. similar to what procedures he uses for the raw material, and if any changes are required, that should be documented and then the change should be effected. Therefore, the size and the type of packaging depends on nature of the food to be packed as well as the quantity. We do not pack a 50 ml into a 2-liter packaging material volume. Similarly, time on the shelf should be considered while selecting a package for a particular product. Then single or multiple use also is important. One may not be able to consume 2 liters of milk at a time, so the packaging material should be such that it should be able to offer protection to contaminating the food until the milk or the product is used up by the consumer. The packages should also have adequate space for required labeling as per the regulations. Following are the information that are required on the packaged food. This figure shows you a properly labeled packaged food, and this should give essentially under the regulation of the FSSAI the name of the product and general name, supplier's item number, components or composition of the materials or all the ingredients, information on the presence of regulated or customer recognized food allergen. For example, if it is likely to contain peanut or any other hazelnut, etc., then the same should be reflected on the labeling. Organoleptic information if required, relevant physical, chemical, microbiological information. If it's a food product and it requires, for example, a package, water, then maybe an information on no coliform or below certain level could be given. Then shipping and storage information, shelf life, for example, the best before dates are given on every label. Then the handling information, allergens if they are likely to be present, instructions for use. For example, if it's a powder form or a powder beverage to be dissolved in milk or water, the same can be written for the benefit of the consumer. Management of supervision of all these activities or the controls are required, and this will definitely depend on the size of the business, nature of the activities, the types of food processings and the foods which are involved. Managers and supervisors should have enough knowledge on food hygiene principles and practices so that they are able to judge the potential risk and take adequate and appropriate preventive as well as corrective actions, and equally ensure that effective monitoring and supervision thus take place in the facility. This requires for good documentation and records maintenance, and wherever necessary, appropriate records of processing, production, distribution should be kept, retained for a period that exceeds the shelf life of the product. Documentation can enhance the credibility and the effectiveness of food control systems. They are also very critical and they are required for certain reasons under certain conditions, which I will come to a little later. The critical records or the records related also should ensure the adequacy of the thermal processes. Achievement of a hermetic seal therefore should be signed, dated by a qualified individual and designated by the management prior to distribution of the product. All other records should be reviewed at an appropriate frequency to provide an early indication of potentially serious defects or deficiencies. The record should be retained for 1 year after the expiry on the label or the container, or if there is no expiry dates, for 2 years after the date of sale. They should be maintained at the manufacturing plant and should be readily available for any scrutiny. I had mentioned a couple of minutes back that it's very important to maintain all the records. Well, under certain conditions the product may have to be recalled. Therefore, these are recall procedures which are to be in place. Managers should ensure effective procedures are there therefore to handle or face any food safety hazard and to enable the complete rapid recall of any implicated lot of the finished food from the market. So now you realize how important it is to have a proper documented system so that you know what went wrong with which lot or with which batch and why that has escaped the attention of the food manufacturer or the food business operator. Where a product has been withdrawn because of an immediate health hazard, other products which are produced under similar condition may have to be scrutinized and the same hazards may be there in that product, and therefore it could be a hazard to the public health, and in that way it should be evaluated for safety and may have to be withdrawn. The need for public warnings therefore should be considered. Each pre-packaged food should have a permanent legible code marks and lot numbers where required expiry or the best before dates are given on the packages. Therefore, product inspection is a very important procedure, and every product that comes out of the unit should be verified for quality and consistency. Before a batch of product leaves the factory, it must pass a battery of tests which are known as positive release tests to confirm that it is safe for human consumption, or it may be even animal feed and animal consumption. Quality tests have to be performed to verify the product compliance with internal and external standards, including for harmful chemicals or microorganisms in the material used and the environment of operation and in products. Tests for allergens may have to be conducted if it is applicable. Therefore, analytical informations all should be there for every product, and these include the food safety parameters or tolerances such as biological, chemical, physical characteristics, biological information, that is microbiological limits for pathogens such as Salmonella, Listeria, monocytogenes, chemicals in the case of fortified foods, the fortification level, sulfite levels, heavy metal content, etc. Physical, that is size and the foreign particles, etc. if it is required. Functionality or the quality. These parameters would include characteristics that can impact the functionality of the material or adversely impact the product. Biological are again the microbiological limits for spoilage organisms or indicators of poor sanitation, including the total plate count, yeast, mold, coliform count, etc. And chemicals, in the case of chemical, it is the concentration levels or the purity. For example, for additives, we have certain CAS numbers and also the numbers which indicate the purity. Then physical characters such as viscosity of a product, color, insect, crush, strength of material, etc. may be included. Finally, the product has to be transported from the manufacturing unit to the retailing centers. For example, milk product, ice creams, etc. they are usually transported under chilled conditions or frozen conditions. Therefore, it should be ensured that they are transported in such a way that the temperatures are maintained. Foods must be also protected from potential source of contamination during the transport, should be protected from damage that may render it unfit for consumption in any form, provide an environment which effectively controls the growth of pathogenic or spoilage microorganism and the production of toxins in food. And if these aspects are not taken care during the food transit, it may get contaminated and may not reach the destination in a suitable condition for consumption, even if hygiene control measures have been taken in the food chain. Conveyances and bulk containers should be designed and constructed so that they do not contaminate the foods or the packaging. They should also be effectively cleaned and disinfected after every transport. They should permit effective separation of different food or foods from non-food item during the transport. Provide effective protection from contamination including dust and fumes. It should be effectively able to maintain the temperature, humidity, atmosphere, other conditions necessary to protect the food from harmful or undesirable microbial growth and deterioration likely to render the food unsuitable for consumption. Allow any necessary temperature, humidity and other conditions to be checked. In this context, a GPS system, if used, can help largely in this direction. Ingredients requiring refrigeration should only be transported at 4 degrees or less and should be monitored for maintenance of the temperature or must have indicators to show that there was a change in the temperature condition during the transit. Frozen ingredients should be transported at temperature that do not permit thawing. Conveyances and containers for transporting food should be kept in an appropriate state of cleanliness, repair and condition. Where the same conveyor or container is used for transporting different food or non-food, effective cleaning and disinfection should take place between the loads. Where appropriate, particularly in bulk transports, containers conveyances should be designated, marketed for food use only, and should not be used to transport other materials as well. They should be inspected by the manufacturer on receipt and prior to loading in order to ensure they are free from contamination and suitable for transportation of food. The manufacturer should have a program in place to demonstrate the adequacy of cleaning and sanitizing. For example, for bulk containers, a clear written statement on the sanitizing procedures indicating the frequency of the procedures, indicating the names of the disinfectants used, etc. all should be available with the date on which these operations were done. They should be loaded, arranged and unloaded in a manner that prevents damage and contamination of the hood. The HACCP plans developed by the food industry must consider the control of temperature and contamination during transport of food also, not only during the manufacture of the food. A food business operator may require a HACCP plan as a condition for doing a business with a particular transportation firm. So students, in conclusion, I would like to summarize what has been taught to you under this module. You have gone through and understood how the raw materials have to be checked in terms of its quality, that it is free from pest contamination, it is free from the physical hazards which may be present in the raw materials, and how the at different points in the procurement procedures have to be there in the food manufacturing unit, and these are all to be present and checked with the help of a checklist so that it is properly documented. And in this context you also have learned about the importance of vendor selection, because the food raw material supplier is the ultimate person who supplies the quality material, and there has to be a system in the food manufacturing unit to have the proper vendor supplying quality material. In case there are alternate vendors for alternate substances, then these also should be documented and properly identified. If one is procuring, for example, rice from different vendors, then there should be a way to have traceability in a batch wise manner. The food manufacturers also use important procedure to ensure the food safety, which is called as the hazard analysis at the critical control point, or what is known as HACCP analysis. You have learnt in this section about that in detail, and therefore we are sure that the raw material is good, and during the processing also at every step critical points are identified and the materials are checked now and then so that it is free from the contaminants. As I mentioned to you in the introduction, the finished products are likely to have some contaminants which may be coming in from the machinery or due to the changes occurring chemically in the products, so that we should have an analysis done for the quality specifications so that it meets the national standards, and if it is an export food commodity, then it should meet with the international standards or with the food safety regulation which may be existing in that country.